Our initial brainstorming for this project centered on the intersection of music festivals and socioeconomic class. We were particularly intrigued by reports of students taking out personal loans to attend festivals like Coachella. We questioned what might drive such frankly irresponsible financial behavior, and theorized that social media may be a key motivator. Instagram offers users the opportunity to present themselves however they want, and to compare themselves to other users. Indeed, thousands of people make a living simply by posting idealized highlights of their lives onto the platform. Our anecdotal observations are that people tend to compare themselves to the idealized images other social media users present, when, unsurprisingly, they find their bodies, experiences, wealth, or any other aspect of their lives lacking in comparison. They seek to buoy their self-esteem by creating their very own projected image. As we discussed how to tackle such a broad phenomenon, we decided to focus our efforts on answering a simple question that could create opportunity to justify further research. Are music festivals really about the music? We conducted interviews around campus to confirm our interest and to guide our research.
Hi, I'm Maggie. I'm Zoe, and we're walking around EUR campus to see if music festivals are purely about the music.
Niggas don't think shit, stink pink gators. My Detroit players, Tim's for my hooligans in Brooklyn. Dead right, if the head right, Biggie there, and night. Papa been smooth since days of under rules, never lose.
This is the music festival in question.
Okay.
Would you go to this music festival? Would you go to this?
No, I have no idea what kind of music there is.
Okay.
Yeah.
We don't know anything. Yeah, we discovered it at the moment.
If it was,
I wouldn't go.
yeah, I would go.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, doesn't mean I actually have to go or.
No. So the lineup is important.
Yeah,
Which does the lineup of a festival matter to you from 1 to 5? 5 being the highest.
For me, 4. Yeah, 4.
3. It depends on the price and location and all of that.
So 5 is quite important?
yeah, sure.
I think it's like 3.
Three,
Because
yeah.
if there's one person that you really like, then
Then it's like, may as well.
yeah.
5.
5.
Yeah. 5? No, 4 for me.
Yeah, but 4.
Would you go to a festival that your friends are going to without knowing the lineup? Would you go?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Mike.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. But not
Yeah.
knowing what the lineup was.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I would rather go like
Yeah.
if all my friends are
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what most people do.
I definitely, like, if a lot of my friends are going and they're like, yeah, it's going to be great, then
Yeah.
of course, like, I've been to festivals where I had no idea and people were just like, yeah, come, but it was free and I was like, yeah, sure, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
How do you primarily listen to music? Is it through Spotify, Apple Music? Is it CD, vinyl, on transport,
Spotify.
Spotify? Okay.
Spotify.
It's CD. Spotify. Yeah, you definitely Spotify. Cool. Again, And if you went to a festival, would you post on social media?
Yeah.
No?
Post, but probably stories or something like this.
If you're there, yeah.
Yeah.
But not like everything and not
No,
before.
Only when you're
like,
there.
like people that film the whole experience. I just up every
Like a
time.
vlog.
Of course, there are limitations and strengths to our on-campus survey. Arguably, any trends that we did recognise could be seen as unreliable, as we all did it within an hour on one day in one place, and that's nowhere near enough time to generate lots of answers from a large sample of people. Also, the sample of people we did interview were not representative. All that we interviewed were white, higher educated Europeans aged between 18 to 23 years old. So perhaps the trends we noticed in our interviews were only applicable to that group and not all festival goers. That is therefore a limitation. A strength was that we did a field experiment, and it was done in a natural environment where our interviewees felt relaxed, as opposed to a more formal setting, meaning interviewers' answers were likely to be true of what they really thought, and that means they perhaps were not overthinking their answers or formalising their answers for us. The fact it was also an unstructured interview has a strength because it provided us with qualitative data, which paired really nicely with the quantitative data that we got from our online Google survey. Through the use of us also using open questions, our interviewees can then talk in depth, helping us to develop a real sense of their understanding of festivals. We can truly understand and get a further insight to why people attend festivals. So we did use opportunity sampling as a method though, which uses people from target population available at the time willing to take part. So it is based on convenience. An opportunity sample is obtained by us asking members of the population of interest if they would like to take part in our research. This is a quick and easy way of choosing participants, which is an advantage for us, but it may not have provided us with a real representative sample and could be biased. Like I said earlier, they were all white, young, European university students. That is therefore a biased sample.
Following these interviews, we decided that a survey would be the most appropriate and effective way to gather data. Our hypothesis was that social concerns would outweigh musical ones when it came to people's motivation to attend festivals. Out of the 16 survey questions, 4 related directly to this question, while others served to paint a broader picture of how people make choices regarding attending festivals and their social media behavior around these events. The survey was created using Google Forms and was pushed out to student individuals on social media. We ultimately received 112 responses. The survey offered 2 paths. The first question asked responders to identify if they had been to a music festival in the last 3 years. Those who answered yes would be directed to the 15 questions of the yes branch, while those who answered no would be directed to the no branch, where they would be asked to identify one or more of their primary reasons for not attending. We'll discuss the most interesting results from the yes branch. Were asked to identify whether the social experience or the musical experience represented the majority of their motivation to attend a festival. As you can see, nearly 2/3 identified music as the key element, with the remaining third selecting social concerns. Next, we'll look at what is essentially the same question asked in an indirect manner. Respondents were asked if they would attend a festival where the music did not suit their preferences for the sole purpose of spending quality time with their friends. In a complete departure from the first question, nearly 2/3 responded that they would indeed attend for this reason, with a third saying they would not. This contradiction represents our most interesting result, and we'll discuss it in depth later. Next, we'll look at another question that relates indirectly to our main focus. Respondents were asked if they had ever attended a festival where 1/4 or more of the performances were done in a language they were not fluent in. An affirmative answer would suggest that the social experience was a critical factor in their attendance, considering their inability to understand a significant portion, or all, of the music. Just over 20% responded affirmatively, with the remainder answering no. The last question, designed to shed light onto our research focus, asked respondents to rank 5 factors they might consider during the purchasing decision for festival tickets: logistics, cost, lineup, having people to go with, and charitable causes associated with the event. Notably, 3/4 of respondents identified the lineup among their top 2 considerations, and half identified having people to go with in their top 2 as well. More than half of respondents identified the lineup as their number 1 concern. Now we're going to come back to the contradiction represented by the first 2 questions. If 2/3 of the respondents are primarily concerned with the music, why then would 2/3 attend a festival for purely social purposes? These appear to be mutually exclusive options, yet the responses are nearly the reverse of each other. This contradiction represents the best opportunity we identified for future research. Our hypothesis centers around the fact that one question was direct and the other one indirect. For the first question, we believe the respondents took into consideration how they should feel. When presented with a blunt and direct question, they spent time thinking about what the quote-unquote right answer would be, rather than responding with their immediate gut reaction. The second question, on the other hand, posed the same question by offering a situational choice, which taps into respondents' ability to imagine circumstances and to place themselves in them much more strongly than the style of the first question. Ultimately, we believe the second question to be a more accurate representation of our respondents' actual motivations, but further research would need to be conducted to support this hypothesis.
Another key element of our study is the idea of music as a group identity that is expressed at festivals and music events. The work of British sociologist David Helsmanhal provides a great framework for analysing this further. In his book, Why Music Matters, he delves into the concept of a fandom of a musical artist by saying, quote, that the sense of community is maintained through fanzines, compete discussion groups before the internet, meeting at concerts and other social gatherings, end quote. He poses that the group is connected at live music events and other social events. The group is formed and exists in everyday life, but they can share, quote, feelings of connection and community, end quote, at live performances. This is a pulling factor towards attending festivals and also explains why people go. because they are part of the group identity. Hausmann-Hall goes further to say that, quote, music is often the basis of collective public experiences, end quote, arguing that the group identity as a fan base of a musician can be expressed physically at a festival as well as individually. The observation of Hausmann-Hall can link to the concept of the collective memory of music, which is especially influential in adolescence. Over 32 million people attend festivals annually, and the majority of them are young adults, making them an important social expression of attitudes and interests. We've heard all the phrases from friends, "You have to see them live, they played their new unheard album at the festival," or something similar. The notion of attending festivals as a key marker of group identity also links to the concept of music as a collective mnemonic object that goes beyond the actual lyrics or the songs. When linking these sociological concepts and observations to our survey's findings, there is evidence to support them. The question posed to our participants, would you consider going to a festival with a lineup that isn't your style just to spend quality time with your friends, had a 63% yes rate. A similar trend appeared in the question regarding the most important factors considered when purchasing festival tickets, with friends also going placed as a close second behind the lineup. All of this points to group identity being crucial to festival attendance.
One theory which perhaps focuses more on the socio-psychological side of music festivals is the concept of escapism. Chinese sociologist Ning Wang discusses this social theory in his article on authenticity in tourism. Quoting Wang, "Do music festivals perhaps offer the opportunity to engage in an unfettered state of being often precluded in everyday life, while arguably festival goers have the opportunity to counter the loss of true self in public roles in modern Western society?" End quote. Maybe music is just the guise then to why people attend, but fundamentally it comes down to attendees wanting to receive enjoyment from not fulfilling the social conformities and expectations that they feel in their day-to-day lives. Imogen Smidgen, in her article on the socio-spatial aspects of music festivals, further adds to Wang's idea that, start quote, "In a wider social context where work and productivity are highly valued, festivals provide a guilt-free opportunity to be non-productive, drift aimlessly, and whimsically consume the experience," end quote. So perhaps music festivals are being used as vehicles simply to achieve this escapism. In a society which places pressures on being productive, perhaps the musical aspect of the festival is simply a facade that we use to justify and reason why we are truly going, when instead it could be how, quote, "Festival goers described it as a place where everyday conventions and cultural values were discarded, allowing a dystopian embodiment of youthful revelry and drunkenness, where the playful and even infantile were an essential part of the experience," end quote.
By comparing both the ideas of Ella and Maggie's findings, it is evident that music festivals are not just about the music itself, but a combination of various experiences and social aspects. It was never just about the music, even back to the days of Woodstock, where some may argue it was more genuine or authentic. It has always been about the collective experience, an experience designed to satisfy our inherent desire to belong and to be a part of something greater than ourselves. Music festivals are presented in this way of being an escape or just an excuse to socialise with your friends. But the main element bringing people together is still the music. The results of our survey made it apparent that people's motivations are not black and white, and that clear nuances exist. Not everyone would go to a festival if their friends were going, and in our interview on Erasmus campus, almost every person asked for the lineup of the fake music festival we created. Our evidence clearly shows that to some degree, people do care about the music itself. The way in which music is now created and consumed has drastically changed the industry, and in turn has made festivals massive attractions for a much wider audience. During the days of Woodstock and throughout the 70s and 80s, music festivals were created by groups of people who usually enjoyed the same type of style or genre of music. Whereas now, festivals encompass so much more than just one theme or subculture. Since then, music has transformed significantly, and through the advent of technology, all sorts of new genres have been created and merged together to form a whole new sphere of sound. In addition, the ability to freely access music through streaming online, such as on YouTube, SoundCloud, or Spotify, means people are listening to all sorts of different artists and are not just confined to what their friends like or the music of their cultural backgrounds. This has led to music festivals becoming incredibly diverse, showcasing artists from rap to alternative indie rock, R&B and pop techno. Don Smiley, the CEO of Summerfest, states that ultimately a festival's success comes down to the lineup. For example, Summerfest's 2019 roster included Lionel Richie, The Killers, Jennifer Lopez, Billie Eilish, Lil Wayne, Snoop Dogg, and The National. A diverse enough group that does not rely on one genre or type of artists. Furthermore, even though music is now so easily accessible through streaming, it, quote-unquote, makes live music that much more special, according to Carlos Quineros, a professor of clinical music and global health at New York University. In turn, we can gather from our survey results, particularly questions surrounding researching artists and following them on social media, that it is also apparent people are keen to connect to the artists and the music itself in a physical and social format. William Roy and Timothy Dowd highlight in their article, What is Sociological About Music?, that approaching music as merely an object or an activity risks treating it as set apart and self-contained, rather than as part of and inseparable from social life. From this, it affirms our idea that music festivals are not just solely about the music, but also the inherent social values that form the musical experience.
Conclusion. While the results from our survey and interviews around Erasmus University campus do not provide an end-all be-all answer to our research question, they do, however, provide a solid platform from which to base future study and observation from. In particular, further examination is needed to examine the disconnect between people's direct identification of their motivations to attend festivals, and then their responses to situational questions asking them to identify their motivations indirectly, and we discussed a hypothesis explaining this phenomenon earlier. The first step in testing this hypothesis would be to recreate the result from the survey. In such case, we'd strive for an N of 1,000, and we'd also collect more demographic data on our participants, such as their ages, ethnicities, genders, etc. The order of the questions and the placement of answers would be randomised. If the same trend we observed held up against more rigorous research practices, we would need to seek outside counsel on how best to approach studying this psychological phenomenon. So what can we safely conclude? Well, we can certainly conclude that festival goers' motivations and desires are more varied than we'd expected. Many of the questions in the survey that were not necessarily related directly to our research question asked about our respondents' social media use before, during, and after festivals. The results of these questions showed 83% of participants had made social media posts, both temporary and permanent, of their festival experiences. Therefore, it is clear that festival experiences are seen as valuable to share. Ultimately, festivals provide a perfect intersection of sociology and popular culture that we hope does not go unnoticed by academics across the social sciences.